And today I'm really excited to have a guest, whose book I've read, well, a couple of times at least, Mr. Bob Burg. If you do not know, if you're anything in marketing and sales, you have to read his book. But I'll let him introduce himself. Mr. Burg, please, share your history and, the books you wrote.
Well, really just began as a broadcaster many, many years ago. I graduated into sales and years down the line became sales manager of a company. From there, it sort of just morphed into teaching others and how to sell and so forth, and began a speaking career that I've been fortunate to do for about 30 years now or so. And with that have come a number of books, my first one being Endless Referrals, which was a book on business networking, creating relationships that would lead to people wanting to do business with you directly, as well as refer you to others. Had several others after that, and then teamed up with John David Mann, a fantastic writer and storyteller, to create The Go-Giver, which is a business parable. And we now have four of those books in the series.
Awesome. And yeah, if you haven't read those books, I read Endless Referrals actually a couple of times, and Go-Giver. So I recommend both books. Highly, highly. If you're a networker, you have to read those books. So that's what I would say.
Wow. Thank you. What a nice compliment.
So yeah, Bob, and yeah, truly, I really enjoyed those books, and it taught me a lot. So for people who haven't read it, could you kind of get into why did you write The Go-Giver, and how do you translate that into this internet age and online age right now?
Sure. The Go-Giver, again, a business parable. So it's a short story. And the basic premise is simply that shifting your focus, and this is really where it all begins, shifting your focus from getting to giving. And when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, understanding that doing so is not only a more pleasant way of conducting business, it's the most financially profitable way as well. And not for, excuse me, not for some way out there woo-woo type of magical, mystical reasons, but rather for very logical, very rational reasons. And that is when you're that person who can take your focus off of yourself and place it instead on serving others, discovering what they need, what they want, what they desire. When you can move your focus off yourself and onto helping another person overcome their challenges and problems, when you can focus on helping another person get closer to happiness, well, people feel good about you. People want to get to know you. They like you. They trust you. They want to be in relationship with you. They want to be part of your business, part of your life, and they want to tell other people about you. And, it's the same whether we're talking about a local meeting or online. It still comes down to, all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people, not computers, those people they know, like, and trust. So it's really just asking yourself, does what I'm about to tweet or respond or pin or post or what have you, is it likely to add value to those people who will be seeing it?
Awesome. And as Bob said, I mean, that is in practice, I've experienced that, like exactly as he said, doing that, just not expecting anything, just giving, it really works. And actually, I just was going to buy a book for my daughter to read.
Thank you. That's always a very nice compliment. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, definitely, sir. All right. One question I wanted to ask you, Bob, is the other question is, what's the shift that got you into this, writing the books and that's Go-Giver? When did you get into that mentality? What was the shift that happened for you?
Well, the shift was after being in sales for a couple of years and doing pretty well, but then going to another company and finding myself in a sales slump. And as many young salespeople do, the way I tried to get out of the slump was by focusing on just trying to make the sale instead of what was in the best interest of my customers. And so the more I pressed the less attractive I became to them, right?
Right.
And finally, one day I was walking back into the office, disgusted with myself after a non-sales non-sell appointment. And one of the gentlemen there, he was a much older guy, a very wise man who didn't say much, but whenever he did, it was always very profound. And I think he saw me sort of as Joe, the protege and the go-giver that I would write about many years later with John David Mann. And he said, "Burg, can I give you some advice?" And I said, "Yes, please do. I need it."
Mhm.
And he said, "If you want to make a lot of money in sales," he said, "don't have making money as your target. Your target is serving others.
Mhm.
Now, when you hit the target," he said, "you'll get a reward, and that reward will come in the form of money, and
Mhm.
you can do with that money whatever you choose. But never forget, the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It's not the target itself. Your target
Mhm.
is serving others."
Mhm.
And I think that's when it really hit me that great salesmanship is never about the salesperson. Uh, Great salesmanship is never about the product or service, as important as those are.
Mhm.
Great salesmanship is really about the other person. It's about that person whose life you're trying to add value to. I guess in reality, more than anything, it's about another person's life being better just because you are part of it. And I think that when we approach business, when we approach sales from that foundational premise, if you will, I think we're really 9 steps ahead of the game in a 10-step game.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you again. All right. So, I mean, you've done great things. Obviously, people who know you, are inspired by your work. But what inspires you every day now, since you got accomplished a lot of great books? So, what inspires you these days?
Oh, I think it's just enjoying what I do. It's feeling as though the work I do is making a difference in the world. And I think as human beings, we all have that kind of programmed into us in a way that we want to be part of something bigger. We want to be individuals, of course, and we also want to know we're making a contribution to the world. And most of us do this mainly through our work. That doesn't mean we can't be involved in other organizations or other things that help, but we pretty much communicate our value through our work. And in my case, I'm very fortunate to be able to do something that I really love, that I feel brings value to others and am well compensated for. So to me, I consider myself very, very fortunate. And I think that's what drives me, though, is thinking, what can I do today that is in some way going to make a difference?
Awesome. Well, you have probably a lot of tips. I'm go giver. We already know that tip. So, what's the one other tip you can share that has helped you that can help others?
Well, I think it's always learning, it's always studying, it's being willing to be an ongoing student. I don't think that ever stops. And I think the more we can put it, the more good stuff we can put into our minds, which then gets transferred to our heart, I think the better. I'm a big student of human nature. And so I'm always trying to read books that help me understand other people and help me understand myself better. Right. And I think when we can do that, I think my biggest tip would be, and I'm often asked, what would I advise that 18-year-old who's now going, 22-year-old or what have you? I'd say learn as much as you can about human nature, because that's who we're dealing with all the time.
Right.
And so, so to me, that's that's a tip I'd like people to be able to really receive.
Awesome. That's a great tip. And it kind of, goes into Go Giver too, understanding that human nature
Sure.
goes into that too. Well, again, I can't say enough about the book because, like I said, I'm a big fan of that book. I follow that. I would highly, highly recommend both the interest reference because I really love interest referrals too.
Thank you.
So Go Giver, both of them. So please do go read it. And thank you, Bob, for taking the time to be on, on my LinkedIn video.
My pleasure and honor. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.